We have started a new quarterly, and last week we have discovered that somehow in heaven a crisis has exploded. This week we get to know that this crisis has touched down on planet Earth. Crisis in Eden.
How could this have happened?
Before we talk about what happened in Garden of Eden, it's only appropriate to say that God has created a perfect, suitable place and home on earth for Adam and Eve to live and to prosper. But as we said last week, even in the perfect setting, there was a place for choice and rebellion. Surprising, but a fact.
The understandings of our origins set some very important variables on how we see ourselves. According to the Bible, we have been created perfect. Everything was very good, and we have been created as responsible beings. We had to create new generations, new people, families, and to manage our planet. This says a lot on how we have been set. Freedom is an important key and ingredient, and it implies responsibilities, development, growth.
And reading again and again the record of Genesis and the description of the setup of this garden in Eden, something disturbed my thoughts. The garden was a special piece of land in the whole creation and was also home of Adam and Eve, and that's okay. Also in the middle of that garden there was a tree, the tree of life. Its fruits were giving unlimited life to Adam and Eve, and this makes sense also. But was it a mistake or not in the design that God has put in the middle of this same garden also a tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Why there? Why in the middle? Wasn't that a direct provocation for disobedience? Why not somewhere on the side of the garden?
You see provocations in many places.
It's interesting because for me, with my human nature, it would have been an irresistible temptation not to try the forbidden fruit, especially when I'm told not to do that. But seems that for Adam and Eve it was different. They never touched it. They never tried to get this fruit, and we cannot explain why and how. But in reality, Eve reached out and picked up the fruit only after she talked to the serpent. Something happened in the dialogue, in the game of the words.
The thoughts on separations and boundaries in the lesson provides an interesting perspective. God separated light and darkness, the waters above and below, land and sea, night and day, creatures according to their kind, a day separated from the others, a woman separated from a man, and a tree set apart from the others. There is also boundary to trust and obedience. This is what the tree was for, and this is what the serpent exploited.
And it was said that the serpent was crafty and also was wild. Wild. Does it mean that she didn't belong there? Does it mean that this was not her place of residence? And all of a sudden she happened to be there in the garden? Interesting. And being crafty, the serpent managed to engage Eve into a conversation which Eve couldn't resist. And I'm not saying that she couldn't resist touching the fruit. She never did this before. But she couldn't resist answering the provocation from the serpent. And she said, "You're mistaken, snake. God has never said not to eat from all the trees of the garden, but not from that specific tree." She had to speak out. Isn't the serpent crafty?
The serpent had a master in human psychology. She engaged a conversation, provoked a response, use of arguments. She made Eve feel involved in the experiment.
And it's a step-by-step process when we engage in sin, in the separation of God. Now that Eve has engaged in the conversation, something beyond her capacity of control was served at the table before her from the serpent. You can have your eyes open, and you can be like God. And at this exact moment probably is when the fruit became desirable.
If we can explain sin, why this happened, we can basically give it an excuse. And I don't think that we can. We can note some interesting facts though and add that Eve thought that they was not supposed to touch the tree, which we don't see recorded anywhere. They were tempted to become like God, not understanding that they were already like God in the way they were created. and humanity decided to take things in their own hands, and there were consequences. Broken relationships with the Creator, with each other, with the environment. Blame, lack of responsibility. Their eyes were opened, but not for the things that they like to see. Shame, pain, death.
And at the end, we can say that thanks to Adam and Eve, we came to know evil through experience. We feel it, we do it, and we pass it on to our children through our genes. But is that final? Is that it? Thanks to God, it's not. He has provided a redemption, a way out, and it's a gain by choice.
Rebellion and redemption is the theme for the quarter. The rebellion is fact. From here starts the path of pain and hope to redemption.
Join us next week.